This content is produced by PASS, the CSLB, an independent audio-first study companion for busy California B general candidates. I build these lessons from official CSLB study guide topics and reputable source-backed California materials so you can study on the go. This is exam prep reinforcement, not legal, professional, engineering, or job-specific advice. Exam content is set by PSI and the CSLB and may change, so always verify current requirements against official CSLB materials. No exam outcome is guaranteed. Now let's get into it. The most important septic decision for a General B contractor is not how to design the system. It is knowing when the answer no longer belongs to the General B contractor. On a rural building project, a clean building plan does not prove that the site can accept the wastewater system. If that approval is unresolved, the building location, price, and start date can all move. I want you to hold on to one field principle from the start. Coordinate the septic answer early, but do not invent the septic answer yourself. The moment a decision depends on soil approval or specialty authority, the General B contractor shifts from deciding to coordinating. A General B license is broad, but it is not a loophole that allows a contractor to accept every residential trade contract as a standalone job. The source-backed licensing boundary is this. A General B contractor may install or repair a building sewer or septic system when that work is part of a broader general building contract that requires at least 2 unrelated building trades or crafts. If the requested contract is only a septic replacement or only a sanitation system repair, the General B classification by itself is not enough. The contractor needs the appropriate specialty authority, such as C36, C42, or Class A, depending on the work. Suppose a homeowner calls because a failing septic tank needs replacement. The owner is not asking for an addition, a remodel, or another unrelated trade. That is a standalone sanitation contract. The correct General B decision happens before a price is promised. Either the contractor also holds the required classification, or the contractor does not accept that contract under the General B license alone. Now change the facts. Suppose the contractor has a general building contract for a residential addition involving framing, roofing, electrical work, plumbing work, and site coordination. The septic work is one part of that broader multi-trade project. That is the situation in which the General B classification can cover the work within the overall contract. I put the licensing boundary into a simple comparison table because one question clears up most of the confusion. Is a septic work one component of a qualifying multi-trade building contract, or is septic the entire contract? When septic is the entire contract, the specialty classification controls. When septic is one component of the broader qualifying job, the General B contractor can coordinate it within that job. This distinction affects more than paperwork. It affects whether the estimate is lawful, whether the subcontracting plan is sound, and whether the contractor should proceed at all. The word general does not erase classification limits. A percolation test measures how quickly water moves through the soil. The result is expressed in minutes per inch of water drop. For a standard Tier 1 disposal area under the statewide policy, the supported range is not faster than 1 minute per inch and not slower than 120 minutes per inch. That range is easy to memorize if you think of the soil as having a speed limit. Soil that accepts water too quickly does not provide the same travel time through the soil before wastewater can approach groundwater. Soil that accepts water too slowly cannot receive the wastewater at the needed rate, so the system can become hydraulically overloaded. The practical result may be backup or surfacing effluent. The central point is not that a General B contractor calculates the final trench area from the percolation rate. That crosses into design. The General B contractor needs to recognize that the test result can change the entire site plan, and then coordinate the qualified professional and approving agency before the project is locked into a price or sequence. The percolation chart shows 3 conditions. Faster than 1 minute per inch is outside the standard Tier 1 range on the fast side. From 1 through 120 minutes per inch is the statewide standard Tier 1 range described in the source material. Slower than 120 minutes per inch is outside that range on the slow side. A local program, groundwater condition, soil profile, or specialist evaluation can still control whether a proposed system is acceptable. That final sentence matters. The percolation number is important, but it is not a permit by itself. Groundwater depth, site geometry, local requirements, and the approved design still matter. The research does not support one universal groundwater separation number for every California site, so I do not want you memorizing a made-up statewide distance. I want you to remember that groundwater depth is a feasibility constraint that the specialist and approving authority must resolve. Imagine a contractor pricing a detached residential addition on a rural parcel. The proposed building footprint fits, but the contractor has not confirmed whether the existing septic system can support the added load or whether the dispersal area can be expanded. If the contractor finalizes the foundation layout first, the later wastewater approval may force a redesign, a relocation, or a more expensive treatment approach. The mistake is not failing to perform septic engineering. The mistake is treating septic approval as a late plumbing detail. The next boundary is jurisdiction. Septic permits and inspections generally involve the local environmental health department, or in some situations, the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The contractor cannot assume that the same building and safety counter handling the structure also controls the on-site wastewater approval. California uses a tiered policy for on-site wastewater systems. Tier 0 covers existing, properly functioning systems under the conditions described by the policy. Tier 1 provides the baseline for lower-risk, new or replacement systems. Tier 2 allows a local agency to operate under a local agency management program, which can adapt requirements to regional soil, groundwater, and site conditions. Tier 3 addresses systems near impaired water bodies and can involve supplemental treatment or monitoring. Tier 4 addresses failing systems that require corrective action. I'm not asking a General B contractor to design within those tiers. I am using the tiers to show why a specialist can control the answer. A project that looks ordinary from the building plans may fall under a local program or environmental condition that changes the acceptable system. The General B field supervision task is to identify the handoff early. Confirm which agency accepts the application. Confirm what site evaluation is required. Confirm who is qualified to prepare the design. Confirm when the inspection must occur before work is covered. Then build those dependencies into the schedule and estimate. There is a practical difference between responsibility and expertise. The General B contractor remains responsible for coordinating the project, but coordination does not mean pretending to be the soil's professional septic designer, environmental health specialist, or excavation competent person. Good supervision puts the right decision in the right hands, and then makes sure the result reaches the field. A useful way to remember the boundary is this: soil data controls feasibility. The approved design controls installation. The approving environmental authority controls the local approval path. The license classification controls who may contract for the work. The competent person controls excavation safety decisions at the trench. Site constraints become much easier to remember with the numbers 5, 8, and 100. The minimum horizontal clearance from a septic tank to a building or structure is 5 feet. The minimum horizontal clearance from a disposal field to a building or structure is 8 feet. The minimum horizontal clearance from a disposal field to a domestic water supply well is 100 feet. The setback table adds the other supported statewide distances. A septic tank is at least 5 feet from a property line. A disposal field is at least 5 feet from a property line. A disposal field is at least 10 feet from a public water main. On sloping ground, the source material also identifies a minimum horizontal distance of 15 feet between the leaching system and the ground surface. The 5, 8, 100 memory connection is not a substitute for the approved plan. It is a quick field screen. 5 feet for the tank to the structure. 8 feet for the field to the structure. 100 feet for the field to the domestic well. These distances can control the building footprint before excavation begins. A contractor who moves a house, adds a garage, changes a driveway, or reserves an area for future construction can accidentally consume the space needed for the disposal field or its required separation. The physical connection is straightforward. A disposal field repeatedly introduces wastewater into soil. If that field is too close to foundation supporting soil, the added moisture can contribute to soil movement, especially where expansive soil is present. A domestic well is a drinking water source, so the field-to-well separation is a critical site boundary. The contractor does not need to redesign the system to recognize when a proposed change crosses one of these limits. Older properties create another coordination trap. An abandoned septic tank, cesspool, or seepage pit is not just an empty hole that can be covered and forgotten. The supported abandonment sequence is clear. The contents must be pumped out. The cover or structural arch must be removed. The remaining void must be completely filled with an approved material such as earth, sand, gravel, or concrete. The authority having jurisdiction controls the required inspection timing. Suppose an excavator breaks through an undocumented cesspool during grading for an addition. That is a hypothetical project, but the field decision is realistic. The contractor secures the area and stops treating it like ordinary dirt work. Laborers should not simply push loose soil through the broken top and continue grading. The contractor coordinates pumping, removal of the top, complete filling, and the required approval before the area becomes part of the new work. The reason is not mysterious. A concealed, unfilled void can collapse later, and remaining waste creates a health hazard. Proper abandonment removes the contents, eliminates the unsupported top, and fills the space so it no longer behaves like a buried cavity. This is also a documentation issue. When old infrastructure appears unexpectedly, the contractor should record the condition, notify the responsible parties, obtain direction from the authority and qualified contractor, and protect the schedule from undocumented extra work. Septic work also brings excavation rules directly into the General B contractor's supervision. An excavation 5 feet or deeper requires an adequate protective system unless the excavation is made entirely in stable rock. The protective system may involve sloping, benching, shoring, or shielding, depending on the conditions. A designated competent person must inspect the excavation, adjacent areas, and protective systems daily before work starts and as needed during the shift. I want to be precise about the role. A General B contractor does not automatically become the person who classifies the soil. Soil classification and protective system decisions belong to the designated competent person who has the knowledge and authority required for that role. The excavation safety table puts the key controls side by side. At 5 feet or deeper, cave-in protection is required unless the excavation is entirely in stable rock. Spoils, equipment, and other materials stay at least 2 feet from the edge unless a retaining device prevents them from falling or rolling into the excavation. The competent person inspects before the shift and again when conditions change. For Type C soil in an excavation 20 feet deep or less, the maximum allowable simple slope is 1.5 horizontal to 1 vertical. Consider a hypothetical 6-foot deep tank excavation in granular, sandy soil. The spoils are piled at the lip, and a heavy delivery vehicle is positioned beside the opening. That combination creates 2 obvious problems before anyone enters. The spoil pile violates the edge clearance, and the vehicle adds surcharge load near the excavation. The competent person must reassess the condition, and the required protective measures must be in place before entry. The soil at the top of a trench is not isolated from the weight placed beside it. Heavy equipment near the edge transfers load through the soil and can reduce stability. Water entering the excavation can also degrade the condition. That is why the competent person's inspection is not a one-time signature. Conditions can change during the shift. I also want you to separate 2 ideas that are often blended together. The 5-foot trigger tells you when a protective system is generally required. It does not tell you that every excavation shallower than 5 feet is automatically safe. The competent person still evaluates hazards, adjacent loads, water, soil condition, and signs of possible collapse. The General B supervision move is simple and firm. Do not let production pressure turn a tank excavation into an unprotected entry. Stop the work, clear the edge, get the competent person's decision, and install the required protection. Now I want to tie the site system back to estimating and scheduling. Before a price and start date become commitments, identify whether the property uses an on-site wastewater system, whether the existing system is functioning, whether added construction changes the expected load, which agency has jurisdiction, whether a percolation or soil evaluation is required, who prepares the design, and where the approved setbacks fall on the site. That is not septic design, it is scope control. A failing system can announce itself through surfacing effluent, plumbing backup, or structural failure of the tank. Surfacing effluent is identified in the statewide policy as a severe health risk requiring immediate repair or mitigation. A General B contractor who encounters that condition should secure the area, stop ordinary work from spreading the hazard, and coordinate the qualified contractor and authority. The clean decision chain is this: first confirm the legal contracting boundary, then confirm the permitting authority, then obtain the site evaluation and approved design, then protect the required space, then plan the excavation with the competent person, then install and inspect in the approved sequence. The specialist controls the answer whenever the decision depends on soil evaluation, wastewater design, local environmental approval, specialty licensing, or excavation competence. The General B contractor controls whether those answers are obtained early enough to protect the job. The central memory connection is simple. A septic system is not just a plumbing item. It is a site approval system. The soil can change the design, the agency can change the path, the license can change who may take the contract, and the excavation can change the safety plan. I made an audio practice quiz specifically for this episode's material. It is audio-based, so the questions are read aloud, and you answer by tapping. I built it for people studying while driving, working, or otherwise on the go. Go to the description below this video. You will see a link that says Pass the CSLB. Tap it. It will take you straight there. Comment below with any questions about the licensing boundary, percolation testing, setbacks, abandonment, or excavation safety. I read those questions and they help me make the next lessons more useful. Subscribe so I can help you stay on track through every episode until you get your license. I know this process takes real time and effort, and I am here to make that study time count.